What's up everyone? I hope you guys are all staying safe, healthy. I am finally ready to start working on the suspension of my Tacoma. I've got a lot to do with the front and the rear, so I'll probably split these videos up into 2 or 3 parts. For today, we're going to be installing the Old Man EMU 887 2-inch lift springs, along with the Bilstein 5100s, which are already installed on the truck, but we'll have to pull them off anyway to lower the circlip to the lowest setting. I'll be doing the install here in my garage with some basic hand tools. I will not be using a spring compressor, so I'm going to show you how I do it. Disclaimer, I am not a professionally trained mechanic, so if you do end up using this video as a reference, please be very careful. Before we get started, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and in the comments below, let me know after the suspension, what should I do to the truck next? Whether it's a roof rack, lighting, whatever it may be, let me know. Okay, enough talking, let's get started. First up, we'll secure the truck by jacking it up and throwing it on some jack stands. We'll need to loosen and lower the lower control arms. So first thing we'll do is mark the alignment cams here. This way it'll be roughly in the same spot when we tighten everything up to get us safely to the alignment shop. Next up, we'll use a floor jack to support the lower control arm. Then I remove the nut and washer from the lower strut. Keep in mind, I keep the bolt in from the time being. This will be the last piece to come off. Next up, we're going to loosen the 22mm bolts, which are holding the control arms on. Again, we're only going to loosen these. We are not going to be completely removing them. We just want to have enough play to be able to swing the lower control arm down. Now on the front, you can remove the front skip plate to get to the bolt easier, or if you do have some long extensions which are wobbly and will make the job a lot quicker, like I'm doing here. Next up, we're going to remove the 2 bolts that hold the ball joint assembly to the steering knuckle. This way we can drop the control arm down. And make sure you're only removing the 2 19mm bolts. Do not remove the center nut. Next, remove the 17mm center nut on top of the shock. Now your shock will probably start spinning. So what I'm doing is just holding the top of the strut with vice grips while loosening the nut. Now we're ready to drop the strut assembly. Slowly start lowering your floor jack to decompress the springs. Once the spring has been fully decompressed, I pull out the lower bolt from the strut assembly. Next up, I'm just going to clean up the shock to remove any dirt and debris. I was using these Bilstein 5100s as a leveling kit. Now that we will be running the Old Man EMU 2-inch lift spring, we will need to lower the circlip all the way to the bottom. And the easiest way to do it is just to use some vice grips or some pliers and just to pull it down. Don't forget your dust boot and washer. Next up, put the new spring in the same orientation you took the OEM one out. Here you can see the size difference between the OEM spring and the Old Man EMU 887. It is exactly 2 inches taller than the OEM spring. Now it's time to throw the new assembly back onto the truck. Now we're going to reverse the process of taking it off. First, we'll throw the lower shock assembly into the control arm and we'll run the bolt through it. Next up, I'm going to slowly start raising the control arm to compress the spring. As I'm compressing the spring and raising the control arm, I'm making sure that the center of the shock is going directly through the top hat. Next, we'll throw on the bushing, the washer, and the nut. And tighten everything down. After this, we'll go through and throw the lower ball joint bolts back in, tighten them. Also the nut and washer on the bottom of the shock assembly. Finally, we'll go through, tighten everything down, and make sure that you torque everything down to the OEM torque specs. And there we have it, the fronts are all done. With recording this video, it took me about 1.5 hours to do the front, both left and right. Remember, whenever you do suspension, make sure you get this aligned. Also, after about 200 miles, I would go through and retorque all the nuts and bolts again. I hope this video was helpful for you guys as you're doing your own shocks or springs or essentially any suspension on your Tacoma. Also, it's the same process for the 4Runners as well. Next up, I'll be doing the Icon added leaf along with the Bilstein 5100s in the rear. And then finally, we'll be going with 33s on this puppy. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.